Let's talk about the cultural identity crisis. It's a feeling of not fitting in the community that you're in, or a feeling of perceived rejection. This might be something that you've experienced having moved to a new place or growing up in a community with multiple cultures, and it can have a big impact on things such as identity, image, and confidence. My name is Matt, I'm a junior doctor from Hong Kong working in London, and I'm here to share with you guys my personal cultural journey, what cultural identity is, and the realizations that helped me overcome these feelings in the hopes that other people who are going through a similar thing can find some comfort. Culture and where I come from have always been a very important thing to me. I grew up in a fairly traditional Chinese household. We celebrated Mid-Autumn Festival with mooncakes and lanterns. During Chinese New Year, we gave Lai Si. My parents always wanted me and my sister to understand the world beyond where we lived in, so they exposed us to pretty much a myriad of languages and cultures from when we were really young. I went to an international school, so the primary language that we were taught in was English, and very quickly that became my most confident language. A lot of my closest friends were from all around the world, so from Brazil, Taiwan, UK, Hong Kong, and actually everything ranging from the music I listened to the TV that I watched, to the food that I enjoyed the most, had heavy Western influences. My friends and family in the local community all went to Chinese-speaking schools. They had a different sets of hobbies and beliefs, and I felt that it was very difficult to identify with them when I didn't speak the language as confidently as them. I was involved in different gossip, different social circles, and although I was in a community with all sorts of nationalities, I didn't feel like I belonged in the one that was the most important to me, which was the one in my city. When I came to the UK, I was introduced to yet another culture despite not having solidified my very own. But university is very much a time of self-development and finding yourself, finding what makes you happy, finding what makes you function and work well, and what makes you, pretty much. I've since found comfort in living here in the UK, but I guess a couple of thoughts cross my mind. I mean, sometimes I wonder, how long should I be here, and am I neglecting my responsibilities as the eldest child in my family? Am I neglecting my heritage? And then thoughts about the future. Would I want my kids to be growing up so far away from their heritage, so disengaged with Chinese culture? And would they face the same cultural identity crisis that I did? Even though I grew up in Hong Kong, I felt like mentality-wise I was very accustomed to a Western way of thinking, and that just meant that I didn't necessarily align with the cultural thinking of the local community in the city. And I think that having a sense of community is at the very core of mankind. That's how mankind has built our society to what it is today. Our ability to communicate and cooperate and place a value into non-physical things such as trust and camaraderie. Questioning one's identity is something that a lot of people end up doing when they're growing up in multiple communities. Growing up, you don't really have a grasp on concepts such as race or identity, and instead you become molded by the community that you're in. Although sometimes it can feel that the longer you spend in one community, the further you may fall from your own. Culture is a really hard thing to define because beyond language and ethnicity, it encompasses such a wide range of things, from the mindset to the way you think, to the hobbies, to the way you spend time, to the way people interact. And when you grow up feeling different, it can have a massive impact on things such as your image, confidence, or identity. It's then really easy to harbor guilt or self-resentment and ask yourself, why am I so different? Why am I out of touch with my heritage? Or why don't I fit in with the people here? It can lead to people depreciating their identity because they don't fit in a certain community, when in fact they are perfectly unique individuals. For the longest time, I really struggled with this concept until a few years ago when I came across some work by Castillo and his team, which was the work of intragroup marginalisation, first described in 2007. They described intragroup marginalisation as the perceived rejection of one's heritage culture when they adopt another culture that may be deemed to be a threat to the original identity culture. And this was typically identified in communities with multiple cultures or people who had moved between places, when an individual was exposed to two cultures and believed to be ostracized by one of them. However, Castillo and a lot of the individuals who then researched this topic after him found some interesting points. Although marginalisation was real, a large part of its impact and the perceived hostility in fact stemmed from that individual's anxieties and perceptions rather than from the people's disdain around them. And the keyword is perceived. because a large part of the feelings of marginalization weren't from true marginalization themselves, but rather that person's anxiety. For me, this was a turning point, and I think the best way for me to describe this is to quote one of the books that I read called The Courage to be Disliked by Fumitake Koga and Ichio Kishimi. And it's a nice, well-written, dialogue-based book introducing Adlerian psychology. I'm just going to mention the relevant points here, but I'd highly recommend checking it out. It's very thought-provoking and very insightful. The book describes all our problems as interpersonal relationship problems, meaning that all our issues and complaints are derived from a breakdown in communication with another individual. Among ourselves, there are tasks that we are in control of, such as how we do things or how we feel certain things, and these are called our tasks. And there are simply things that are out of our control, such as how people perceive you, how people feel about you, and other people's actions, and these are their tasks. And the distinction between other people's tasks and your own tasks that you're in control of is called the separation of tasks. And this is a really valuable concept because it allows you to decide what you can change in life and what you can't. Finally, it talks about having the courage to be disliked and to be different as the key to having a good, happy life. Being okay with the fact that you are different in certain ways to other people. Personally, I realized a few things. Firstly, my feelings of marginalization were an interpersonal relationship problem. Second of all was that my feelings stemmed from an anxiety or insecurity within me, which makes it a me problem rather than a you or they problem. Thirdly, I realized even though I was different, it was okay. I just had to have the courage to be different and to be disliked in certain ways. Finally, because I realized it was a me problem, this was something that I could overcome. I feel like I lived my entire life with this feeling of anxiety and marginalization while yearning for a sense of belonging, but in reality, a lot of the anxiety actually just stemmed from myself. And just realizing this made it easier for me to overcome these insecurities single step at a time. It's very difficult to conceptualize the idea of culture. Culture is such a fluid thing, and nowadays the world is more connected than ever, and we're all basically in the same community. There's not really a truly unicultural identity or community anymore. We need to distinguish that cultural identity is not the same thing as personality. Although how we grow up and the experiences that we have affect us, it doesn't define our values and our morals and ethics. And I think that part of overcoming this anxiety about the cultural identity crisis is just simply acknowledging that it's okay to be a little ambiguous about your cultural identity. Honestly, it's a little inevitable even, given that there are so many influences when you're growing up, but it's about how you perceive it and how you turn it to something positive. And truthfully, does it even matter? Whatever you are, whatever I am, we should be proud of it. I personally am still figuring it all out. A part of me is always going to wonder whether I should have stuck closer to my roots, but equally I know that I was given such an incredible opportunity to learn about the world beyond me, and I'm hugely grateful for all the cultures I've experienced and all the people I've met. You can absolutely still respect and love the heritage that you come from or your mother culture while still immersing yourself in new experiences in different countries. I know my family and my culture will always be with me as I grow. So in that sense, I am not stuck between cultures. I embrace them. So that is just what I wanted to share, guys, and thanks for watching. It's been on my mind for a few years and it feels really good to just be able to talk about it. I've had several chats with other people before who've been going through something similar, and I hope that just sharing my personal journey and what helped me overcome it can just create some insight for others who might be going through something similar and hopefully give you a little bit of comfort. If you feel like this video would resonate with anyone you know, please feel free to share it with them, and I would love to hear what you guys think about what I've said or your personal journeys as well. If you liked this video, please feel free to like and subscribe to follow my journey to see more like this. But otherwise, for now, that is it. And I will see you guys in the next video.